$37. This podcast has reached 37 episodes.
In a row?
Ooh, that's good innuendo.
I see what you did there, gents. Welcome to So to Speak. I'm Evan Mead.
I'm Lyle Groniger.
And we've got Joshua.
And I'm the third wheel.
Joshua Weinberg over here. So,
hello.
When you reach the milestone of 37, there's only one thing you gotta do. We're going to do our first ever directorial deep dive here on So to Speak.
Now, hold on. I did a Quentin Tarantino episode not that
right!
long ago.
Oh, sorry. I forgot about that.
Gee,
you know what?
Episode, you sure like it doesn't exist?
Okay, yeah, start that over. Start that over. We're going to cut that.
Our second directorial deep dive is none other than Mr. Kevin Smith.
Right. Sorry, I'm just waking up. We're all just kind of waking up. With the exception of Josh, Lyle and I are just kind of waking up.
It's only 11:30.
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. So, we on the day we're pre-recording this show, we agreed on 11 o'clock, and in true Randall Graves fashion, my co-host showed up at 11:30.
Because I'm fucking tired.
Yeah. That's what I guess you can speak for this, but that's what a pandemic sleep schedule does to you, man. And a lockdown sleep schedule, too. Welcome to fucking Canada, man.
Welcome to So to Speak. So where are we starting with this?
Let's talk a little bit about the man himself, Kevin Smith. Not too much to say about this guy, because he grew up with, a pretty standard suburban upbringing, because he's a kid who grew up in New Jersey. Wonderful place to grow up, am I right? He had a love of comic books and movies as a kid. And then he goes to film school, drops out of film school, sells most of if not all, his comic book collection, borrows money from his parents.
Maxed out all his credit cards.
That's right.
And most of his money came also from, I think it was, selling the down payment on his car or something.
That's true, yeah, no, this guy...
he did almost everything to fund this upcoming project.
Yeah, and if it failed, he would have been in debt until his dying day,
The
but...
rest of his life, yeah.
In a rare and not even bizarre, a miraculous stroke of fate, his film got into Sundance, got a standing ovation at Sundance, and the rest is history. So, here on So to Speak, we've got our coffee, we've got our cranberry juice, and whatever Josh is drinking over there.
And I'm sure one of you placed an order from, what was it, Moo something?
Movies? Movies, yeah, no. We're going to talk about that later on, but, yeah, you got your skinny calf? Okay. I love how, our podcast is called So to Speak, and I don't think we've ever once drank soda while recording this. God damn it, it's So to Speak, not cranberry juice speak, or skinny cap speak, or coffee speak.
No, one of you needs to skateboard down the street to a song for TikTok for it to be cranberry speak.
Ah, nice, well played. So, today, I already talked a little bit about the man. We're going to do a deep dive into his filmography today. So, without further ado, let's... get rocking.
Let's unjam those locks.
On April 1st, 1993, principal photography began on the project we just talked about. It was a movie called Clerks. Now, Lyle and I have yammered about this movie on previous podcasts before because for the umpteenth time, we have visited the Quick Stop where it all went down on the day 28 years ago. So... all I can really say about Clerks is that I was introduced to it in 2009, and that I liked it when I first saw it, but I didn't really love it until I was in a kind of depressed state in the year 2010, because I was just going through a hard time in my life at that point, and I put on Clerks one day, and I felt much, much better. That's all I can really say. We've heard a lot about Lyle's experience with the movie Clerks. And Josh, when did you first see Clerks, or what are your thoughts on it?
I can't remember the first time I saw Clerks, like what year specifically. I think maybe I was familiar with it during high school, but it probably wasn't until my college years that I really started to understand a lot of the themes and ideas in it. Just basically the idea of working in a customer service job you don't really like because that's your only way of making income. So in a way, I related a lot to both Dante and Randall on different levels, I suppose, because there are times where you feel more like, of course, Dante's famous, I'm not even supposed to be here today kind of attitude, versus Randall, who knows the job sucks, but tries to make the most of it anyway. And yeah, he's going to come into the video store late, but he still tries to put in as much effort as he can, as little as that may be. But their chemistry is also part of what really makes the film work.
Yeah. It's also worth mentioning that Kevin Smith worked at the store that they shot this movie at because, and he had to shoot. His boss wouldn't let him open the store. His boss wouldn't let him shoot during the day, so he basically had to work nights for like a month and a half or so. He got like maybe 2 hours of sleep every night for a month and a half or. I cannot imagine, living like that because, he had to go to work during the day and he had to shoot his movie at night. And that's why most of the interiors were shot at night, which is why the steel shutters are closed for most of the movie.
Really clever if you think about it.
It really is. And also, when I couldn't understand why the movie was in black and white the first time I saw it. I thought it was like a cinematic joke of some kind, but the reality was he could afford the camera equipment, but he had no budget whatsoever for lights. So when a movie is shot in black and white, lighting isn't a priority, and you can get away with not lighting the environment. So what he did was he basically edited the movie. He shot the movie in black and white, and basically just went from there.
You know what I always thought when I first watched Clerks. See, I didn't really know anything about indie budgets or, like, limitations you have when you, like, shoot on a low budget. I thought Clerks was, like, a mainstream movie or something because everyone was telling me it was, like, a modern comedy masterpiece.
Yeah.
And it is. But when I first saw it, I thought the reason the whole thing was shot in black and white was deliberate because they wanted to imitate the look of, like, a CCTV kind of thing, like a security camera footage.
That would have been a neat concept.
Because the movie doesn't look like it's shot on like an especially great camera. It just looks like it's shot. So I thought that's.
So that means that Apu remade Bright Lights Beef Jerky, or it was like Bright Lights Beef Jerky is actually based on Clerks, and we're just crossing all the wires today.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. I thought it was supposed to look like security cam footage. So.
Just on a personal note, like I talked about how this movie got me through hard times when I was 18.
Me too.
Another cool thing is the same year I saw Clerks for the first time was also the same year that Avatar was released in theaters. Now, both Avatar and Clerks inspired me to get into filmmaking, and it was also in 2009 that I took a Comtech course, and I didn't. And it was funny that these three things, I saw Avatar and Clerks, and I took a Comtech course all in the same year. And it was kind of like the holy trinity of events that kind of started me on the path to where I am today. Because in my life, what I always thought was when you've got Clerks, which is a movie that requires very, very minimal effort to make, but you can tell an amazing story in a deeply relatable environment. Like, that's equally as valid an effort of filmmaking as, spending a bajillion dollars or however much James Cameron is worth to create a world that doesn't exist, at least not that we know of. The Avatar was meant to whisk us away into a story, but Clerks whisked us away into a story that, could have happened down the street from where we live. So, it just proves that you don't need a bajillion dollars to tell a great relatable story, and and when it occurred to me that Clerks was done with little effort, and with little resources, I'm like, wow, anyone can make a great movie. And that's why I thought, I'm going to give it my own shot. And
that's what Clerks represents. It has that indie like vibe to it, where if you want to get it done, you do it. And that was a huge boom in the '90s. You had a lot of guys like Quentin Tarantino and Wes Anderson and Paul Thomas Anderson who were just kind of making their own stuff at the time.
Yeah.
And getting it out there, and then getting even bigger projects as a result.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which,
I would argue. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I was about to segue. So, what did you want to say, Josh?
I'd argue that part of Clerks' beauty is not only in just the premise sounds really simple, and in some ways, this is a universe that, especially in current year, is even more relatable. But when you also look at the interpersonal relationships they spice in, I mean, the entire subplot of Dante and Veronica and sort of how that culminates with everything, like it goes to a really dark place at some points, and it's fascinating to learn more about, Dante isn't really as much of a great protagonist as we're made to believe at first.
Him and Randall really aren't. But that's one of the things I kind of admire about some films is that protagonists are allowed to be complex characters. They're not meant to be always likable. That's as long as they're relatable in some strange way, that's how the movie works. And also, Josh, just because I'm a sucker for pointless trivia, Dante and Veronica, I said this in our last episode, but Dante and Veronica share 3 scenes in the whole runtime, and in 2 of those 3 scenes, they have a fight, which really goes to show like how toxic a lot of their relationship is.
Yeah.
That's true, but at the same time, you have to understand part of the tension is, again, because like one of the side characters, like his ex-girlfriend is one of the side characters he's still talking with. And so obviously there's still feelings there that he's got to resolve somehow.
Oh,
but
definitely.
Like that, her entire subplot is hilarious and yet weirdly dark at the same time. The first time I saw it, I thought it was like a weird, strange kind of traumatic thing. I don't know why they put it in there, but now that I look at it, I'm like, yeah, that would fuck anybody up.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
Weirdly dark. Things got weird in the dark.
Oh, did they ever? Okay, so
and at the same time as things get weird and dark, the little side moments with some of the other side characters, like Olaf, the Russian metalhead, or the woman waiting outside the video store, or the old man.
Yeah. This is actually an appropriate segue on that note because we fawned over this movie enough, but you can't, without hate, there can be no love. Now, I'm not saying that there are parts of Clerks that I hate. I don't hate any part of this movie, but we're going to get to some criticism because it wouldn't be a directorial deep dive without criticism. Sorry, Kevin Smith, we can't suck your dick every second of this show. I apologize. So, my criticism with Clerks is that the pacing can be a little off at times. And a big part of that was Jay and Silent Bob. I know these characters are iconic to the whole Kevin Smith fan base. Like, they're practically deities at this point.
They're like the poster boys.
They're the poster boys for the View Askew universe and for Kevin Smith's brand as a filmmaker. But unfortunately, when they were introducing Clerks, they hadn't quite come into their own as characters. So, to me, they're just kind of there. And it feels like Kevin Smith didn't have enough of a story to tell with the 2 clerks in the store. So, whatever they shot with Jay and Silent Bob was filler. And they feel like random comedy sketches when they cut away to outside the store than they do actually part of the movie. The one time it actually works is at the very end where, Snooch to the Nooch is there to, buy some snacks and go to a party. And then Silent Bob breaks his silence and drops some words of wisdom.
Which he always does.
And I like that. But the reality is, if Jay and Silent Bob weren't in the movie, those 2 could have been any random stoner that could have just pep-talked Dante into convincing him that he loves Veronica.
Well, I think it's okay, because Clerks in and of itself doesn't have a very, strong narrative, beat-by-beat
In
flow.
fact,
it's very slice of life, so to have as many characters as possible, to kind of create the world and make it feel real, it's fine by me.
Yeah,
I think they're a worthy addition. I will say they get better and better with each installment. And the first one, I know Jason Mewes had trouble reading his lines, and you can kind of get that sense in a lot of the scenes where he has to carry it.
Fun fact, in the scene where they're at night and they shoot the boombox dance sequence outside of the store, the whole set had to be cleared and the camera was stationary because Jason Mewes at the time was very camera shy and dancing on camera embarrassed the fuck out of him. So he basically asked Kevin to clear the set and he basically just danced like while no one was watching except the camera.
Kevin Smith joined along.
Yeah, no, that was kind of cool.
How many people do you think in the Quick Store now just stand outside and dance like jackasses?
Well, I mean, like, to this day, it's a tourist attraction. Fans like Lyle and myself flock there on a weekly basis. They recreate scenes. In fact, we're going to throw that up for our YouTube audience right now. We have an exclusive clip of when Lyle reenacted Randall's grand entrance into the Quick Stop. We're going to throw it up on the screen here.
God damn. If there's one character I love in this movie more than anything, it has to be Randall. Randall's basically like, I don't know, I think is it the id or the super ego?
That's it. Ego. I feel like he's kind of like Homer Simpson in a sense that he's the guy everyone wishes they could go to work and behave like, but it's like you know you can't behave like Randall Graves, but he
speaks his mind.
Speaks his mind. There's a part of you that wishes you could be like him, even though
It's a nice dichotomy because Dante hates his station in life, and Randall is completely like in control of it. Basically,
yeah.
He doesn't give a shit.
In a way, he's more in control. Like he's not. Like he's trying to make the most of it. Obviously, he doesn't. It's not really indicated what he actually wants to do with his life, but. He's like, well, if I have to work in a video store for right now, then I'll make the best of it for now until something else comes along.
They're both equally directionless, but I think he's more like accepting of that, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like he does.
He's not trying to fight it as much.
Yeah.
Which will play into his character more in the second one. And
we're gonna have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, I just want to say, some days at
work,
we
will.
Some days at work, I feel like I feel like a Randall when I know I have to be a Dante. That's the analogy I always use.
It's great though. So on that note, so Kevin Smith.
Before we leave this first movie,
yeah, what's up?
How about that soundtrack, y'all?
Oh,
how about that soundtrack?
It is a damn good. Okay. It's not Lyle. That soundtrack is more your cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea, but I love like a lot of the songs in that movie, even if like a couple of them are covers.
When Randall bursts out of the store with "Got Me Wrong" by Alice in Chains, that's when a legend was born.
I love the song.
Chewbacca will always stick with me.
Chewbacca is the funniest fucking song I've ever heard.
Do You Know Your Place is a good one.
Yeah, Bad Religion.
The Bad Religion song.
That's a great track.
The song.
Leaders and Followers.
Leaders and Followers. Sorry. Leaders and Followers. Sometimes I remember.
Lyle, you gotta get Evan into some Bad Religion stat.
Yeah, no, Bad Religion's an excellent punk band.
Maybe
they're not like the usual, like, fuck everything. They're more like, let me tell you why you should fuck everything.
Maybe Greg Graffin is a fantastic frontman, just like he is a wise person.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the lyrics are very smart in Bad Religion.
Okay, so.
But we should probably carry on.
Now, it's worth
mentioning. You're closed.
Yeah.
Next. Let's close this chapter.
Yeah. Now, Clerks was shot in 1993 and it debuted at Sundance in 1994. And what happens when you have a standing ovation at Sundance? You get money and fame. And Kevin Smith used that to make his next movie, a little screwball buddy comedy called Mallrats. I don't have a whole lot to say about Mallrats. Like, I watched it when I was, roughly the same age as Brody and T.S. Quint were. But it's not. There's nothing really outstanding there. Okay, no, I apologize. The only thing outstanding about it is Stan Lee's amazing cameo before Stan Lee was known for making cameos.
Yeah, that was the highlight for sure.
Other than that, like, I don't have a too lot to say. It's entertaining, but nothing special. Like,
it's a VS Universe movie.
Can you explain to the audience what the VS Universe is?
VS Universe is kind of like. It's like a proto MCU. It's an interlocking storyline where events in certain movies are like referenced later on in other movies, or like characters will kind of pop in and out. The Jay and Silent Bob characters are kind of like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of the group, as quoted by Holden McNeil. So they're sort of the ones that like jump the most in between movies. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is like, my god, like the Infinity War of the group.
Yeah.
Where like you see all these characters come in and out in short little cameos, but more or less it's kind of just like a shared universe, and it was kind of one of the first.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, there was like the Universal monster movies back in the day that interlocked too, but this one felt cool because it was all in the mind of one really nerdy Jersey guy.
Something else that's worth mentioning is, just like in Clerks, the two guys in this movie have relationship troubles up the wazoo.
Oh yeah, and Mallrats, yeah.
Yeah. So, this movie also had a bigger cast, too. In addition to getting Stan Lee in his second feature film, how lucky do you have to be to have that happen? So, in addition to getting Stan Lee to be a part of this, he got Michael Rooker,
Yondu.
a.k.a. Yondu, yeah. By
I'm
the way,
an asshole, y'all.
that basically means there are 3 movies in which Michael Rooker and Stan Lee have shared the screen, and that's the Guardians movies and Mallrats.
That's same movie, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we gotta mention Jason Lee. Speaking of Lees,
Yeah, this is like a star-making performance in Mallrats.
like he started off being a professional skateboarder, and then he got in an accident, and then he just ended up in acting like on a whim. And I gotta say, this role is perfect for him. And while, like, you know, sometimes he's a little bit gruff around, like, his ex and stuff, I do think his character is, like, a standout, really.
Yeah.
He's got so many character quirks. I love how he always has, like, an empty cup on him. I love how he came up with something as gross as a chocolate pretzel.
Oh, God.
That is even more gross than a David Cronenberg film, I swear to God.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Requiem for a chocolate pretzel.
Oh, God. Anyway. While I'm eating cereal. Oh, my God. Okay.
There are some smaller moments in Mallrats I really enjoy. I mean, again, this is 95. This is still when malls were everything in American culture, whereas now they're mostly just half-empty, soon-to-be paved over for condo buildings.
Yeah.
But
Everything will be a condo.
the beginning scenes where they're playing, I believe, they used the sounds for the Sega Saturn version of NHL 94.
Yeah, it was the Sega
That was-
version.
That was kind of a nice touch. Just sort of all the scenes, they're like walking around all the stores, you know. He's trying to figure, TS is trying to figure out how to, like, win Brandy back and all that stuff. One of my favorite things is actually the side scene with Ethan Suplee, who is trying to find the Magic Eye sailboat,
God.
and he gets so enraged when a little girl is able to see it before
Oh,
him.
you stupid bastard. It's not a sailboat, it's a schooner. I did that wrong. It's not a schooner, it's a sailboat.
You know what? There is no Easter Bunny!
That's just a guy in a costume. Shut up!
Because, like, seeing that, and I'm like, because he was also on Boy Meets World at the time, or just after this, and I'm like, where was this anger when you played Randy on My Name is Earl? Where was that?
Yeah, if you ever want to see the precursor to My Name is Earl, you get Jason Lee and Ethan Suplee in one scene. It's like, God, you guys are young. Just wait till karma catches up to you, I guess. Yeah.
I suppose.
I gotta be honest, unlike Dante and Randall, where I actually like the duo, I'm not really fond of TS.
Well, I feel like
he's alright, I guess, compared to them. He seems alright.
He looks like
Okay,
like a discount Brendan Fraser. I feel like, in fact,
I'm imagining this movie with Brendan Fraser instead.
I feel like the movie could have worked better if Brendan Fraser, you know, if Brendan Fraser was TS. But the thing is, like, can you picture someone breaking up with Brendan Fraser? Brendan Fraser is, like, such a sweetheart that I can't picture anyone breaking up with him or him being a shitty partner.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about TS. Like, he kind of comes off as shitty during the breakup because he kind of blames Brandy for it all.
Yeah.
And Brandy's not really good either. Like, I don't know. It's like you can tell, like, her accent slips like 50% of the time.
Oh God, yeah.
It's more like the performances I don't really like. Like, I think TS is way too, like, aggressive. It's like, hey, You shouldn't have broken up with me. How could you have broken up with me?
Yeah.
And he does that throughout the whole movie, and it's annoying, but, like, you know, when he's with Brody alone, it's better, but still, I don't like him very much. Yeah. We should also mention Jay and Silent Bob's appearance. Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but the studios didn't like Jason Mewes while they were making this movie, and you know who they had on call before, like, during any scene, if Jason Mewes, there's too many Jasons. If Jason Mewes fucked up, do you know who they would have called? Seth Green.
I was going to say, who did they call? Someone else.
Yeah. They called someone else, and that was Seth Green. Can you imagine Seth Green as Jay?
Yeah.
That would basically...
I'm just imagining the alternate universe where Jason Lee never quit skateboarding, and Brendan Fraser, you know, was TS, and he was skateboarding much like he was an Encino Man. Think of the Pro Skater cameos they could have had for the next Tony Hawk game.
I still need to see Encino Man, but yeah, I'm just picturing, like, Seth Green reprising his role in Can't Hardly Wait. That would basically be his closest
Jay. There's a deep cut.
Yeah, right.
Now, so not too much more to say about Mallrats. I mean,
it's fun.
I have fun with it. On the note of Jay and Silent Bob, I actually like how their place in the plot is more integral than it was in Clerks. I will say that.
Yeah.
Because
if I can add one little nitpick though, in Mallrats.
Sure, yeah, by all means.
This is obviously Ben Affleck's first role in the Viewers universe, but like obviously he's playing the D-bag in this. But I'm like, the characters come up in, especially compared to, like, you know, modern times. I don't really feel that that's a, how do I phrase this?
Funny.
Funny. It's not funny, and it just kind of feels over the top and intentionally cruel.
That whole subplot with the girl when she has, like, this government funding
that
thing,
also doesn't age well if you think about it.
It doesn't make sense.
Like the independence thing, I understand, but it's more like,
she's 15. How is she getting government money to have sex with random guys?
Yeah.
Is she lying about it?
Even in 1995, there are some things you can't just, you know, put in a film like that.
Trying to be edgy.
That's statutory rape. Well, this was before the Weinsteins were distributing his movies.
But this was after Lolita, so it's like.
I don't like that subplot either.
So, also we're gonna be talking a lot about Ben Affleck on this episode because, in the same way that Samuel L. Jackson and Quentin Tarantino are like their go-tos, like, for each other,
Johnny Depp and Tim Burton and Toshio Mifune and Akira Kurosawa.
Ben Affleck is a phone call away from Kevin Smith, it seems.
He's only one call away.
And
maybe
this
not so
now
much anymore,
something that's worth noting about Ben Affleck in the 90s, Josh. It's worth mentioning that you called him a D-bag. When Mallrats came out, that was all Ben Affleck played in movies because he was early in his career. He was typecast as the douchey.
Would you say, because he's just a teenage dirtbag, baby. Na, 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 na. Well, maybe
Josh is the needle dropper.
I wanted to make the Wheatus reference, damn it.
Yeah,
He's
sure.
the needle dropper in this group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's kind of funny because Jason Lee technically has one more role. It's like, I looked at this chart. Ben Affleck has 7 roles in the Kevin Smith filmography, and Jason Lee has 8. But then again, those aren't all leading roles, so I think Ben Affleck's more the leading man.
So,
I forgot how much good music was in this soundtrack.
Soundtrack's pretty rad.
It is.
It's a 90s as fuck movie. Yeah. I'll end the note on that.
So, speaking of Ben Affleck, he was the leading man in Kevin Smith's next movie, Chasing Amy. Mm-hmm. I have to be honest, I forgot. I've only seen this twice. The second time I watched it, I forgot it was a comedy. Because it starts off like a typical View Askew universe installment, but by the time you're you're 1/3 of the way into the runtime, you'll forget it's a comedy. And the plot is basically this. It's more complex than his other movies because his other movies were basically a bunch of guys meandering.
It's more personal.
It's way more personal. And one of the things I like about Kevin Smith's movies is that he writes good average Joe characters, and for the middle class, his movies are deeply, deeply relatable. So on that note, Jason Lee and Ben Affleck play two comic book artists and authors, and they're at comic conventions. They're trying to, make their mark on the industry. They commute back and forth between Jersey and New York. Oh, you'll see a lot of that in these movies, too. So, one day, Ben Affleck's character meets this girl named Alyssa Jones, played by Joey Lauren Adams, who also had a small bit in Mallrats.
Was also dating Kevin Smith at the time.
Oh, I didn't know. I forgot about that. Wow. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, what happened was, so it's the classic boy meets girl, boy likes girl, and then boy tries to woo said girl. But there's one issue. Alyssa is a lesbian, or so we think. The whole reality is, despite the fact that he knows she's a lesbian, Ben Affleck's character still persists, and he still, develops these massive, and I do mean massive, feelings for her. And on one day, about halfway through the runtime, he confesses his undying love for her, to which is met with a screaming fit on her end, and rightfully so, because the whole time I was watching him give that speech, I'm like, dude, this is an amazing speech, but you're giving it to the wrong person. She's clearly a lesbian. There's nothing's going to change that. But the thing that I'm really conflicted with is, I when I sum up my thoughts on this movie, I'm from now on, I'm going to just leave it on the note of I don't know how to feel about it, because the whole idea is that after he gives his speech, she screams at him and then leaves him for dead in the rain. But then she runs up to him and then they're making out. And then they're in a relationship for the latter half of the movie. And then the rest of it is... And then you think that would be the end. But no.
You know what's funny?
What's funny?
You just explained the plot to Geely as well as Chasing Amy.
We'll get to that one later on.
That has nothing to do with Kevin Smith, though.
No,
it has something to do with my interpretation of one of the later movies.
When did Jiggly come out?
It came out in
2003.
But we'll talk about that later. I just thought it was funny because
they
share. Ben Affleck also dates a lesbian in that movie.
Okay,
J-Lo,
Ben Affleck and lesbians. Damn. So I don't know how to. So the whole idea is once they're enjoying their relationship, Ben Affleck hears through the grapevine that in high school, she once took two guys, at their house. And she once had two guys at once at their house. So then he feels all insecure for absolutely no reason that I can relate to. At least maybe some guys have insecurity complexes with this kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Everyone's comfortable with it.
Well, I mean, yeah, no, I can understand that. So then the movie ends with him. He makes a proposition between his best friend, who's played by Jason Lee, and Alyssa, too, basically have a three-way, and then the whole idea is that I want to do this because I feel like I'll be on your same level of experience and I won't feel so inadequate anymore. And her response is, I love you, but I'm not your fucking whore. And then she slaps him, and then that's the end of their relationship. And the movie kind of ends on I'm not really sure what we learned from this, but it's a relationship that just happened, and the thing I struggle with the most about Chasing Amy is it possible that, someone can come into your life that completely rewires your interpretation of your sexuality? Because I'm not saying Kevin Smith is sending a bad message, but this whole concept of, straight men thinking that they can convert gay women to being straight, or the opposite for that matter. I've seen this in movies too, where I once saw a movie where a gay woman turns a straight woman gay or bisexual or whatever. I struggle with the idea that someone can come into one person's life and completely rewire their sexuality. I struggle with that, but at the same time, Alyssa is very vocal about how liberal she was with, discovering herself. And I think that's fine for a person to do. And when it comes to the issue of sexuality, I firmly believe that anyone can be whatever they want as long as consent is involved. So I just struggle with the whole idea of, I'm sounding like a broken record at this point, but I'm not sure how to interpret the message of, the right person can change your sexuality.
There's definitely some aspects of Chasing Amy that haven't aged particularly well, the sex politics being one of them.
Oh, that's another thing, yeah.
I do think it's a good movie. I think it's very, very nice. I think it's actually one of the better looking movies that Kevin Smith has done. Compared to the other two, it actually feels more like an underground, like, indie film.
Yeah.
And it has kind of like the aesthetic of like an underground comic as well, like with the colors and everything.
In more modern times, like, he's gotten a lot of flack for being a straight white male who wrote a cis white male who.
So this sounds like the perfect movie to be remade today.
Oh God. I don't even. You know what?
I was thinking though, this movie is literally Pink Triangle, the movie.
I'm dumb, she's a lesbian. I thought
that for almost 2 hours.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, this movie is 2 hours long. God.
For a drama, it does feel long. Like,
yeah, do yourself a favor, listen to Pink Triangle for 2 hours.
You
get the same experience.
Yeah, no,
this is a very good point, Josh.
This is one of the few movies in his filmography where I feel the runtime. Yeah, and that's not something you can say about too many Kevin Smith movies.
I have to be in a certain mood to watch Chasing Amy. Not so much for other entries, but at the end of the day, I can't fault it too much. I understand what Kevin Smith was trying to do. I can't say if he was successful or not, but it's certainly interesting to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a very different movie from what he usually does.
One last thing, I don't know if either of you can relate to this, but the concept of having somewhat unrequited feelings or dating or having a really tumultuous relationship, I feel like that's something that every one of us can relate to in some way, shape, or form. So, again, relatability is something that I can say about the Kevin Smith filmography. So, on that note, this Kevin Smith, his next movie takes the concept of comedy. Kevin Smith took his comedy chops and wrote an epic. And I do mean an epic. Dogma, released in 1999. Now, the first time I watched this, now, I'm not a deeply religious guy by any stretch of the imagination, but I understand the plot. And it's basically Kevin Smith who, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin Smith was raised Catholic, was he not?
Yeah, for most of his life.
Yeah.
And then he kind of converted.
So he was raised Catholic. This is his about-face critique of the faith. And the plot is two angels, fallen angels, Loki and Bartleby, are on a mission to get back into heaven. To do this, they have to travel from Illinois to New Jersey to basically walk inside this random church. If they get inside this church and return to heaven, you think it's okay that these angels return to heaven. Unfortunately, it means the fabric of reality will be ripped inside out and we'll all cease to exist. So, this random-ass woman in Illinois, who is apparently a chosen one, has to go on this road trip to stop the angels thanks to the coaching of, Alan Arkin being the mentor.
Alan Rickman being...
the
Metatron.
Alan Rickman being the mentor. They basically he guides her to go on this quest to stop Loki and Bartleby from entering the church in New Jersey. And
with the help of two prophets, played by Jay and Silent Bob.
Oh, man. And now the celebrities really get cranked up to the max.
The cast is insane.
Yeah, no, Alan Rickman, Chris Rock, Selma Hayek, and
George Carlin.
And George Carlin, yes.
And we can't forget Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
And of course, Canadian representation. God is played by Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
Yes,
which seems fitting.
Yeah. Now, Alanis Morissette was like on top of the shit heap in the 90s, wasn't she?
Well, this was 99. Yeah. This was a few years removed from Jagged Little Pill, but I think the album that came out the year before this still was pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it I'm not familiar with the faiths, but isn't it extremely sacrilegious to show God's face in any movie or God as a physical being in movies? Because But I know movies have gotten away with it. Like, it's not the first time like God has been portrayed as a character. Like in Bruce Almighty and Evan Almighty, he's played by Morgan fucking Freeman. But
yeah, I don't know. This movie gives me like Monty Python, the Holy Grail vibes because that also shows God.
oh
And it
yeah,
also even has the same opening where it's like just a text and it's just like we try to have a sense of humor about this. After all, God created the platypus, so even he has a sense of humor. Also,
I gotta actually see this in full, but I know
Yeah.
like this also reminds me of Meaning of Life. If we're talking Monty
Oh,
Python,
yeah.
oh yeah, okay.
I can see that a little bit.
Not as segmented.
But this sounds like a really solid concept because I've heard of Dogma. I just haven't seen it in full.
Oh, I think you'd like it, Josh. It's
I
pretty
think
good.
I would too.
Yeah.
I think this and his next film are some of the best looking films that he's done, at least in a mainstream sense.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, like the special effects and
Yeah.
the makeup department did a really pretty solid job for this, considering his other movies were really kind of low budget and minimal. Dogma is quite a step up. I think it's definitely at the height of Kevin Smith's powers.
Yeah.
And the story is really expansive. I dig it.
Yeah. So so now that Kevin Smith has 4 movies under his belt with the same character, with the same rough cast, same rough characters, well, Jay and Silent Bob tie the whole thing together.
Before we move on, can I just talk about a little movie? I know, Evan, this is a favorite of yours. Do you know how Good Will Hunting got made?
Because Kevin Smith put in a good word at Miramax, and that
because like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, they wrote the script. They tried to
alleged. There is a conspiracy theory that
says
that it was,
but I'm pretty sure they did. And they tried to ship the script off and sell it to like various companies. None would take it, and it was only when Kevin Smith looked at it, and he's like, "I can get this for you boys." He goes up to Harvey Weinstein, who reads the whole script, and there's even a funny joke where he like points out to the guys like, in the middle of the script you have like this out of place oral sex scene. What's that about? And the 2 guys are just like, oh, that was a prank. We just wanted to make sure you read the script.
How fucking ironic.
Yeah, that's a cute story back in the day.
It was cute. It's not cute anymore.
But these 2 guys like got their movie made essentially thanks to Kevin Smith, and that's when they worked.
He is credited as a producer on the movie.
Yeah, so is Scott Mosier. Yeah,
Scott Mosier too.
Have we mentioned Scott Mosier yet?
We haven't, but I'm gonna say this.
He's his wingman, basically.
Scott. By the way, off the top of the head, Scott Mosier would later go on to direct the Illumination Grinch movie.
Yeah, that surprised me.
Because the producer of Clerks went on to make The Grinch many years later. So anyway,
it's that Grinch.
Now, one of the cool things I like about... So, I've talked...
It's the Minion Grinch, the one that I don't like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't
It's
great.
Okay, I won't hold it against him.
Yeah. It wasn't great, but...
I mean, the music choice for that movie didn't work at all, but we're not talking about Grinch. We're talking about...
So where are we
I
going?
mean, the choice of artist, but...
I want to briefly mention... Yeah, I want to talk about Scott Mosier for a quick second. I talked about how in the View-esque universe, Kevin Smith really kind of messes with continuity in that he has the same actor.
Does he?
Oh yeah, no. He has the same actor play multiple characters. He has the same actors play multiple characters. Like at least with Brian O'Halloran, it's justifiable because Dante apparently has like 3 other relatives. One is a news reporter, the other is some schmuck who wants to go on a dating show. But you'll have Scott Mosier plays 2 characters in the same movie, and they also share a scene together. As crazy as that sounds.
Clerks during that hockey scene.
Yeah, Willem is in the scene, and Scott Mosier also plays the ladder guy. Yeah, you open?
No! Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That comes up to a head in this next movie, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Because, oh man, Jason Lee plays a couple characters.
This is a fun ride.
Ben Affleck plays another, like, he plays Holden, and he also plays
He plays
himself.
3 characters,
He plays 3
basically.
fucking characters.
Yeah.
Yo, you were the bomb in Phantoms.
Oh, wow, so that was actually a better segue than I thought in talking about Ben
that
Affleck.
was a perfect segue. So, yeah. It kind of shows the threads that are kind of pulled in this universe, with actors at least, but... Yeah,
so
I agree.
What's the plot? Very quickly, what's the plot of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
To kind of point back to Chasing Amy, the movie starts with Holden and Banky and Chasing Amy. They create a comic based on Jay and Silent Bob called Blunt Man and Chronic. So Jay and Silent Bob eventually find out that they are making a movie based on their property, and they don't like that. And so they want.
And they didn't get any royalties
They
from
didn't
it.
get royalties or anything, so they're pissed, and they're gonna go all the way to Hollywood to complain, go to the studio, and get their money or get their licenses or get the movie shut down. I think they just want to shut down the movie.
Yeah.
So it is an odyssey to behold as they get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Includes
With hilarity aplenty.
And they have a couple... something that I'll always remember this movie by was... Lyle and I were watching it on the day that Carrie Fisher passed away.
Yeah, I remember I got the news just before he entered the door, and I was like, oh no.
Did you? Oh, you knew before I got there?
Yeah,
Yes.
I knew before.
Like if people thought going from Dogma's cast to this one is like turning it up to 11.
Yeah, no, it's got Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill in cameo appearances. Mark Hamill's the best in that movie.
Yeah, Will Ferrell's in it, Judd Nelson.
Oh, wow.
Matt Damon again.
Wes Craven.
Actually,
Eliza Dushku.
Matt Damon would be in a few Kevin Smith movies.
Shannon Elizabeth, yeah.
Yeah. So, I gotta be honest, the first time I saw Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, I didn't like them as characters very much, so I was very skeptical about having them carry their own movie, like, all the way to the end. It works in some points, other times the jokes are a little repetitive. Because Silent Bob doesn't talk, it's basically Jay cracking wise with everyone they meet, and but it's cool though. Now that I've revisited these movies in recent years, I've grown to like Jay and Silent Bob, and I like this movie slightly more. But it's a fun ride.
I would say the first act really drags its ass. Because, like, that whole scene where they're with Holden, like, Ben Affleck's character, and he has to explain to them the internet, and there's, like, all these jabs of, like, online criticism. Because Kevin Smith doesn't...
So Rotten Tomatoes before Rotten Tomatoes, basically, is the first act.
Or Letterboxd.
This was at the beginning of the new millennium.
Bottom line, Kevin Smith doesn't like criticism, and he makes it a point to bring that up in a lot of his films.
Oh, God, I hope he like, doesn't mind us talking shit about some of his movies on here.
We're in the good part.
He's a filmmaker, for Christ's sake. He should be cool with it at this point.
But he's a regular guy too. He's not conditioned. You know?
Okay, fair enough.
Anyways,
yeah.
So, Jay and Silent Bob. I know it kind of drags. I'd say as soon as like a character supposedly dies somewhere in the first act, that's when the movie really picks up. It becomes a road movie. I remember the Scooby-Doo parody gets me the most. They all get high as fuck.
Now it's worth mentioning that for the past
Hey kids, it's Mark Hamill.
Yeah. For the past
before we leave this one, I keep bringing up the musical moments, but the climax is actually pretty hilarious.
Oh, it's great.
Just because more stay in the time, but as much as I like where they finally get everything, and then with how many people want to kick some ass, that entire scene, as hilarious as it is at the time, I'm also like, dude, that's actually messed up.
Yeah, they beat the shit out of a bunch of internet critics.
But like that song got huge mostly because people associated with that scene. I think this might be, as for Jay and Silent Bob as characters, it's probably the peak of where they feel the most realized and the most fleshed out. Like they have flaws, they actually have good moments, and I feel like of everything in the Viewers universe outside of the first Clerks, it's the one that I do find myself coming back to the most.
Yeah, I mean, goddamn, that whole Planet of the Apes sequence just kills me every time. Die, you monkey fuck! Ah!
The relationship between Silent Bob and
today,
Shazam the orangutan is actually very wholesome, and I love it.
He's all that he wanted in a girl.
So, for the past Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was released in 2001. For the past 7 years at this point, the VUS universe had been fairly consistent with its release pattern.
You almost said the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, god damn it. Like, that, no, that...
carry on, yeah.
So up till this point, VUSQ movies were coming out, like, every other year, if not every year, in the 90s.
Like every 2 years.
They kind of stopped the consistency at this point because the next VUSQ Universe installment didn't come until 2006. And when it did, it was a warm welcome. Clerks 2.
Well, There's something before Clerks 2.
Oh, what was it's?
Oh,
what was
Jersey Girl.
that's that? I want. We can talk about that if you want.
Why don't we just go through?
Fine, we'll go through continuity, but so
There's not much to say about Jersey Girl.
outside of the View-esque universe, Kevin Smith created a movie based on a lot of his own upbringing called Jersey Girl. The plot is
Ben Affleck again.
Ben Affleck again marries J-Lo, and I guess this was capitalizing on the Bennifer.
Really?
Yeah, the Bennifer thing.
So basically, everything's kind of happy. They're in what any marriage would go through. They love, they fight, they are about to have a kid, but then out of nowhere, J-Lo dies in childbirth, and that's not a plot thread
that first arc actually is pretty like I did watch this in the last year. It actually is a pretty rough.
It hits you like a bag.
Watch.
It hits you like a bag of bricks, because you think it's going to be like this happy-go-lucky Kevin Smith comedy. Nope, it's a drama, and a very heavy one. Because
some of the beats.
And you see how that informs his character, all these characters throughout most of the movie, trying to cope with that loss, and work is the only thing he knows to not have to think about that.
Now, what does he do? He's a music producer.
Media publicist,
sorry.
Yeah, and he badmouths Will Smith.
He badmouths
in
Will
the
Smith.
early
The Fresh Prince right before Men in Black comes out.
Technically,
in the 90s. Okay,
it would have been in the 90s.
Independence Day, excuse me.
It's been a while since I've seen this.
Yeah, because
mid-90s.
It's been a while.
So
since I last saw this.
So anyway, in Jersey Girl, so basically he badmouths Will Smith because the pressure of having to juggle his job and raise a kid just gets to him on one really crucial night, and he's fired as a record label, and
basically loses.
He has to move away from New York back to New Jersey, and he has to live with his father, played by George Carlin. George Carlin is one of the
last on-screen role before he left us.
Oh, that's seriously?
Yeah, it was his last role.
Yes, his last role was, I believe, in Cars a few years later.
Cars was Cars was the last. Cars was his last
his
movie.
last on-screen performance.
This has been random film trivia shit I actually know.
I got you one. So
Paul Newman's last movie was also Cars, and him and George Carlin both died the same year, 2008.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Going back to the production of this movie, the reason why it's kind of crazy because of Geely, which we mentioned earlier. J-Lo's scenes in this film were truncated in editing. It means they actually cut her out of the movie mostly.
Why was Jiggly so badly received that Jennifer Lopez?
It was a huge commercial bomb.
Yeah,
and it was considered like one of the worst things ever made at the time.
Wow.
And so they cut her out of the marketing. Her name's not in the marquee or anything. They had to reshoot a lot of the scenes. There was supposed to be 45 minutes of her before she died, and they had to cut all that out. It's kind of a shame, really, but at the same time, I kind of get it, because, it was, you really don't want to tie yourself to, a bomb the year before. It was just, and this was, another, it kind of came to a head, because eventually, Ben and Jennifer broke up around the same time they were filming this, too. So, it was just a lot of drama. Is there anything else we really need to say about Jersey Girl? I mean, it's not...
There's something interesting in that it reunites Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler, and it
from Armageddon,
makes sense, and it's not that animal cracker scene in Armageddon, which, thank goodness it's not.
I'll say that Liv Tyler is surprisingly good in this.
Where are we going? To your place. We're going to have sex.
Yeah.
Okay,
she's written by a man.
If you thought the love story in Armageddon was cringy, pop in Jersey Girl, you'll feel much better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but it's really nice to see that Gertie herself is she's a girl growing up in mid-2000s America, mid-2000s New York City, post 9/11. Which, by the way, this is the first film to make a joke about 9/11, where Ollie calls cats the second worst thing to happen in New York City. And that's a quote, by the way. I'm not. That's a character. That's not me.
I will end my thoughts on Jersey Girl with this, and this is kind of an amazing story. So it was nominated for 3 Razzie Awards.
Jersey Girl was nominated for 3 Razzies.
Yeah, but the girl who played Gertie won a Young Artist Award for Best Performance, age 10 or younger. And the film.
She's great.
Yeah, no, she's good. She's really good. But the film was also nominated for Best Family Feature Film, but lost to Christmas with the Cranks.
Are you kidding me?
Well, I guess they decided to compete with the Razzies for.
Oh my god!
Yeah, this movie lost to
What year
Christmas.
is this? 2004?
Fuck!
2004.
Fuck Hollywood! Fuck that award show! Fuck
Oh,
everything!
Oh
I
no.
need to look and see what the other categories the other runners up even were.
Yeah.
Really? So, not the. Wait, what the? So, this category on an aside had that movie, Jersey Girl, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events.
With Jim Carrey.
This is not the Neil Patrick Harris count-off. This is the Jim Carrey
That
count-off.
movie's better than
The
the other
Phantom
two.
of the Opera movie, Sleepover, and Spanglish.
Best Family Feature Film?
This cop, Jersey Girl should have creamed all of those.
No, I think on Series of Unfortunate Events could have
Okay,
creamed all of those.
we're digressing a little bit.
Yeah, let's move
The
on.
moral of the
so the
story
point-
is award shows are meaningless
I find-
and
And they
subjective, and enjoy what you
Okay.
enjoy.
Okay, so there's
Although just be aware of the context.
okay. There's an interesting. I like how there's an interesting contrast here. J-Lo was cut out of this movie because she was in a cinematic bomb, but Liv Tyler was in this movie a year after Return of the King won Best Picture. So
So yeah, keep one and leave the other.
Redemption arcs.
yeah, no, but when Liv Tyler actually plays a human, like she can be amazing. No, like seriously, like watch Empire Records, watch Jersey Girl. Bet people shit on Liv Tyler's acting chops. I think she's great when she's in the right thing. Yeah.
She's okay, I guess.
Yeah, so-
but we need to move on. I think
Okay,
I
so
said my piece about.
Back
Jersey
to the
Girl.
View universe.
Yeah, after the failure of Jersey Girl, I guess Kevin Smith realized.
I hate the fact that Jersey Girl's a failure. I like Jersey Girl a lot, and I saw it for the first time like literally very recently.
Yeah, you saw it yesterday.
I really like it. It's very heartfelt. It's very heartwarming.
It's not a terrible movie.
With really really hard dramatic moments notwithstanding, because like the scene where they have that fight is really really
yeah, I hate that scene to be
And
honest.
the scene where My City in Ruins by Bruce Springsteen is sort of like
right, yeah.
he's sort of going back, I guess, he's either on the way to the interview near the end, or he's going back to try and he's trying to make it to Gertie's school and the school's doing Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
Like, good on them, because they wouldn't even know a few years later there'd be a Sweeney Todd movie that would be a lot worse than the play was.
Okay.
Yeah, but after the failure of Jersey Girl, this was when Kevin Smith kind of took a crack in the armor, and he didn't feel good at all because of it. Like, he was like, oh, I spent 2 years of my life on this movie.
He also made that for his dad, who died the year before.
Yeah, and for his experiences with his daughter. Yeah. So, he reopened the book to the View universe and made one more entry, I suppose. The first one he would make for a long time.
Yeah. So, Clerks 2. I'm going to be
Gentlemen,
honest.
would you be prepared to say you're eating it?
Oh, yeah. No, what's really sad is Clerks 2 came out at the time when people stopped treating Kevin Smith like a cinematic genius, and they started really ripping into anything he made beyond Jersey Girl.
In 2000s, internet culture will do that.
Yeah, well, but Lyle and I have an opinion that might be controversial. Not only do we think Clerks 2 is a good movie, it actually may be one of the best sequels ever made. Because, I'm serious, like, I love Clerks and Clerks 2 equally, but here's the thing that people forget. I personally think the jokes in Clerks 2 are funnier. It's technically a better movie in every way because he had millions to make it. The cast is better. The characters are slightly better. The pace is better.
Some emotional hurdles.
Every single character element that was established in Dante and Randall is expanded upon in this movie, which is what a good sequel is supposed to do. Yeah. So on paper and on screen, it's a better sequel in every way, but people like to hate this movie. I don't know why.
I will say that Clerks, like, I get why people like Clerks more, because it was kind of like a revolution at its time.
Yeah.
And Clerks 2 isn't quite as much of a revolution, but I do agree. It does a lot of things that a good sequel should do. And I do think I think personally it's my favorite work of his out of the bunch. Basically, Dante and Randall lost the quick stop because fucking Randall
It burned down.
He had to leave the coffee pot on.
Shit! Now where am I supposed to bring chicks to fuck when my mom's home?
Can I actually tell a very short story that actually... Okay, so we said on
Virgins with Evan.
on a year before, like a couple summers ago, right before we were working, like I work at a grocery store, and back in the summer of 2019, we were about to leave for our road trip to go to the east coast of the United States, where the Quick Stop would be one of our stops, and we made a quick stop at the Quick Stop. But anyway, so a couple days before I left for this road trip, I was working a closing shift one night, and my supervisor who I was working with, we smelled smoke, and our store didn't burn down, thank God, but there was a tiny electrical fire, and that we caught with our noses, and the fire department had to be called. We got out an hour later than we normally would have, and I thought that was so crazy, because how does Clerks 2 open?
Terrorists.
No, like, I came home with the same expression on my face that Dante came home. Everything was fine. We lost a shit ton of product, but because we had to get the fire extinguisher and douse it, and the fire department had to kind of. So anyway, so I came home with the same, like, what the fuck just happened expression on my face as Dante did, and then Lyle saw the look on my face, and I told him what happened, and he was like, terrorists, and then
we recreated that scene
yeah.
in the opening.
Yeah.
So yeah, they lost the quick stop in this film. They also lost the black and white filter, and now everything's in color because everything's different now.
Yeah.
And they work at a fast food joint, a Movies.
Yeah.
Remember when Movies was in Toronto? Like, they had that pop-up store?
Is it still?
I missed
No, it's
that,
gone now.
but was it worth it at all?
Nope.
No. It was pretty shitty.
Sounds about right.
One night I got the munchies, and we ordered from Movies. It's not that good, quite on. Like, we got our cow tipper on, and
Even if you didn't have the munchies?
Yeah.
No,
I'd rather go to Burger Priest or something.
Yeah, like,
It's just not very good.
they overdid it with the flavor. That's all I can really say.
Well, everything's filled with pickles.
Yeah,
That's
no,
the thing.
everything's pickled. It's really nasty.
Pickles.
Pickle fucker, yeah.
I think that's what they were going for.
These burgers got fucked by pickles. Yeah. What I don't know what really to say. I mean, I love the new characters. Rosario Dawson.
The soundtrack is better.
Oh god, the use of 1979 by Smashing Pumpkins.
That's
my favorite scene in a Kevin Smith movie.
That and Alanis Morissette's "Everything" at the end are the best. And then
raindrops keep falling on my head during the go-kart scene.
Okay, there are 4 songs that fit the tone.
Let me help you out of your gig, Grandma.
No, not that. Something a little. No, wait, there.
Any use of King Diamond in any movie is well.
So there's the Talking Heads song which opens the movie. There's Raindrops Can Fall on My Head. There's the dance on the roof to ABC. And there's like we said, and then everything else. There's 1979 by Smashing Pumpkins, and there's the soundtrack kicks ass. It's
honestly
amazing.
Yeah, it's the best use of music in a Kevin Smith movie where it doesn't just feel like wallpaper. It actually feels like it fits the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, my god. And then there's Elias.
I love Elias.
Everyone's like the poster boy of sheltered childhoods everywhere.
Where was Elias in the events of Dogma? He could have been really.
I'm sorry, Jesus.
Oh god. I okay. The pillow. Okay.
Pillow pants.
The pillow pants scene
set to the music from The Shining
that is one of the biggest laughs I've ever had in a movie. Period.
Oh, we can't forget the donkey show.
Oh god. By the way, last summer when the pandemic was still going on, we streamed that movie in cast for our buddy Brandon. And it was his birthday, and the donkey scene came on, and we're just laughing, and Brandon's typing in the chat, WTF, and then we're like, happy birthday, Brandon!
Happy birthday, asshole.
Yo! That guy's gonna cornhole that ass with his wiener! Okay. Interspecies erotica,
I haven't seen all of. I think I may have watched Clerks 2 once, but it was like years ago, so I can't remember all this. But it does feel like an evolution on what Clerks was, and also like a nice bookend. When everything wraps up.
Even the song that plays during the donkey show is well placed.
Yeah. Oh, and we can't forget the Soul Asylum song.
Oh yeah.
Misery.
In the credits, yeah. But
That's
so
such a great song.
I got something
to
to point out, but this was at the point where Kevin Smith was a married man and his wife, Jennifer Schwalbach Smith, and their daughter, Harley Quinn Smith, you can totally tell he's a fucking nerd, like, based off of the name of his kid.
You don't say.
So, his daughter and his wife are both in the movie, but his daughter has a tiny little cameo.
Well, his daughter was also in Jay and Silent Bob.
Oh, right.
Yeah, in the opening, she plays like a young Silent Bob, like a baby.
Oh! Well, that was right after she was born.
Yeah, it was super long ago.
So,
yeah,
anyways.
yeah, Clerks 2, yeah. Yeah, it's like Dante's gonna marry Jennifer Schwalbach, but he falls in love with Rosario Dawson instead. And,
Good for him. I think that's a better choice anyway.
Yeah, the movie is not very. It's very transparent who he's gonna pick instead.
But here's the thing. I like how his romantic choices in the first Clerks movie didn't lead him anywhere, and he basically wound up fucking over 2 relationships in the events of the day. But he actually picks the right one this time. I really like that.
No, he just needs to avoid cheating on her, and we'll be good.
Now, I don't think do you want to save this for the end, or should we talk about the future of Clerks? Because it's true that there has been a Clerks 3 in the works. Supposedly, Kevin Smith wrote Clerks 3, but he's at a point in his career now where stuff is really hard for him to make.
Mm-hmm.
He has tried and failed to make Clerks 3, but I'm of the mindset where if Clerks 3 never happens, I'm okay with that, because the Clerks 2 makes both movies come full circle perfectly, and nothing needs to exist beyond that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, Clerks 2 ends on such an excellent note that I don't think you need a Clerks 3.
You really don't.
It's not warranted.
Yeah. So, anyways, in 2006, it was time to leave the Vuesque universe to rest and for Kevin Smith to move on to other things. The next movie he did was a comedy.
Cue the funk guitar.
Okay, so a year after Clerks, around the same time Clerks 2 had come out, Judd Apatow and the Frat Pack were taking off. So Seth Rogen was called by Kevin Smith and says, "Hey, do you want to be in my next comedy about 2 broke people working in a Joe job?" Seems to be a reoccurring theme in these movies, huh?
Right.
You know what, another theme? I feel like Kevin Smith, for a long time before he got married, was a really shitty boyfriend. You ever get that sense?
I do kind of feel like he has to justify the behavior of his characters a lot of the time.
I mean, if you had flaws and you get better from them, then good by all means, good on you. So, case in point, the next movie he made in 2008, at the height of Seth Rogen's popularity, Zack and Miri make a porno. The plot is these two platonic roommates, Zack and Miri, they're broke, and they are horrifyingly broke. I have no clue how they haven't collapsed from anxiety given the state of their lives. So they're about to lose their home. Literally, it's about to get bulldozed to the fucking ground. So the only way to bail them out of their financial troubles is to make a fucking movie. Literally, a fucking movie.
That's what they should call
Zack and Miri make a fucking movie.
That's where that joke's from.
An awesome fucking movie.
Yeah. So it's worth mentioning that. So the plot is they make the porno. It's hilarity ensues. Some gross outs ensue.
She decorated me like a cake.
Oh god.
We
don't talk about that scene.
That's the funniest scene in the movie. That caught me off guard when I saw it.
And that's Randall Graves himself.
Yeah, Jeff Anderson in all his goodness. Yeah, I don't know. We don't really have to get too much in the plot. It's nothing special. Yeah, you know what? I feel like this movie is basically like a Judd Apatow movie.
I know.
It doesn't really feel.
But it's in a Kevin Smith kind of a coat, you know.
I can tell he wrote it, yeah, but the way it looks, the way
Did he write Zack and Miri?
He did. So yeah, I understand. It's definitely a Kevin Smith movie. It just the way it's shot, the cast, which is filled with all these new up and coming comedic legends. It just feels more
carried by Jason Mewes, who isn't playing Silent Bob.
Lester the Molester.
Yeah, at this point, Jay and Silent Bob were kind of retired.
Well, yeah.
Well, you also have to understand, around the time between Jersey Girl and this, Kevin and Jay were Jason were going through some stuff, outside of film.
Yeah.
And that's why he was supposed to have a cameo in Jersey Girl, but because Jason Mewes was
Going through
how do I
rehab.
phrase this? Going through, he was going through a heroin addiction at the time. He kind of severed some ties temporarily with him, just
Oh
as like
Jesus.
Yeah, so...
to try and at least,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was to keep it professional or to just try and help him get sober again. But like when they come back in Clerks 2, it's like you can kind of tell that like they've mended things, and we'll see later on. But
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel. I do remember because the thing I just realized there was that swallow my cappuccino thing that I heard a joke from it somewhere in some video. I'm like, oh, I forgot it was from this.
Yeah. Well, the reason they get the idea to make a porno is because some dickhole teenagers, she put a Miri, played by Elizabeth Banks,
Pornhub original.
She changes, her dress with the backroom door open, and two teenagers see her granny panties.
Granny panties.
And basically, they upload a clip of it onto the internet because Brazzers was a thing in 2008.
Why would you do that while there's customers around and they have the door wide open like that?
Oh yeah.
That's just a recipe for disaster.
It's sexual harassment, by the way, too.
Yeah, it is.
So
it is, but at the same time, again, I think if they remake this in the future, it could be like, OnlyFans and whatnot.
No, I feel like if there's gonna be a sequel, Zach and Yumiri get an OnlyFans. Actually,
Zach and Yumiri get an
That's just a YouTube. That's just a web short.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, make that a short film. Don't make that a full feature. But yeah.
It would make sense. So not too much else.
The best commercial ever.
Not too much else to say about this. Okay, so now we're getting into the dark age.
Zack and Miri make a porno.
I'd say Zack and Miri to me is like the last pretty good Kevin Smith movie. Clerks 2 is the last great one, but this is for a long time after this. We're gonna speed through this next section.
His next movie, which he did.
I honestly say it's kind of fitting that that's the last real Kevin Smith movie when it doesn't even quite feel like a full Kevin Smith movie.
No, that's why I say Clerks 2 is better, but Zack and Miri is at least decent. I would recommend it. It's fun.
Yeah.
But the next movie, Evan, if you want to take that away.
Cop Out.
No.
Did you ever?
No. Hell no. 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 No.
No.
I don't know if that's exactly how it went, but that's what you all remember that scene.
Yep. That's the best scene in the movie.
The meme.
Hey, Lyle, did you ever see Cop Out? It was amazing. I said it was amazing.
Like, me being 18 at the time, I think I saw it with my dad or some family and thought it was okay, but I'm like, let's be real. This is trying to be Die Hard 4.5, but with a comedic factor.
Okay, Lyle, you have to tell the story of how Bruce Willis had... both Kevin Smith and Bruce Willis fell from grace.
Yeah. Well, first we gotta mention Zack and Miri. I forgot to point this out. This is the first film that introduced Kevin Smith to weed. Believe it or not, despite writing Jay and Silent Bob, Kevin Smith was a pretty clean-cut dude. He didn't do any drugs. He was a very
I didn't know that
guy. But when he met that Seth Rogen guy, man, things just kind of sparked between the two, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
So,
Seth Rogen, man.
And I think, and I'm not judging, I'm not going to be like an anti-420 guy, but I think weed...
This episode's coming out a few days after 420, so...
I'm afraid to say it. I think weed is one of the worst things that happened to Kevin Smith because he started losing his focus. His scripts got a lot messier and less congruent. And it got... And Bruce Willis actually pointed out that, the guy was, very unfocused and very unprofessional on set. But then again, so was he. Because, basically Bruce Willis hated the fact that Kevin Smith was always behind the monitor. He wasn't really as engaged with the actors as he could have been. And of course, Kevin Smith was horribly disappointed with working with Bruce Willis. Because Bruce Willis... This is kind of the beginning of, Zombie Willis, as I like to call it. Which, he's in full form now. But back in, 2010... His movies were kind of getting less and less spectacular. He wasn't putting as much effort. He kind of had a stone face coming in. And Cop Out is definitely him at his least give a fuck mode. This is where it started. And, because of this, because Bruce Willis isn't acting in this movie, I feel bad for Tracy Morgan, who has to kind of, put as much energy and franticness into the film just to try and make it funny, and it just comes off as so annoying. And unfortunately, like, even Kevin Smith said, like, yeah, if it wasn't for Tracy Morgan, I would have shot myself.
The plot of this movie also the plot of this movie barely exists.
I don't care.
The plot of this movie barely exists.
Live Free or Die Hard.
Well, Live Free and Die Hard was at least fun, but yeah.
Live Free and Die Hard is coherent.
But the same idea of, like, the main guy, his daughter's involved somewhat, but she's barely in it, and then there's a second guy that's funny and does things.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because Kevin Smith had a cameo in that movie, too.
It's all connected now.
And Justin Long, we'll get into him, too, later.
Oh, we'll get into him later.
Funny you mentioned that. Yeah, no.
No, wasn't he not also, yeah, he was in the previous movie we talked about, too.
Yeah, why?
What is with all these missed connections?
Oh, yeah. Justin Long was so funny in Zack and Miri.
Him and Brandon Routh.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, back to Cop Out. It's interesting to note, this is the only movie of Kevin Smith's, that he did not have any writing involved. He did not write it, he simply was paid to direct. It was a studio film that...
And it shows.
Yeah, I think it's time to talk about it. I don't think Kevin Smith is a strong director in any sense. What makes his movies work is his writing. His ability to make banter. His ability to have, like, a little bit of unpredictability in his scripts. That kind of makes...
Well, that's another thing.
The way he's able to shock you, kind of way.
Outside the View-esque universe, his stuff is predictable. In the View-esque universe... his movies aren't that predictable and they're not formulaic. Not saying that I'm not saying that formulaic movies are bad, but when you've seen the same movie the most formulaic in the View-esque universe is Dogma because that's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
But even then, it takes some liberties with it.
Well, there's a sense of confidence in his work when he's the one writing this, and you get this a lot with auteurs or people who make their own stuff. When they do studio work, you don't really get as much of their personality, but when they have a project they're very passionate about, it shows.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, like, Spike Lee's the same way, and Guillermo del Toro's the same way.
But on that note, when you talk about studios give a lot of these guys the free rein to let their passion run wild.
Not necessarily, though, because sometimes they can be very constraining.
That's true, but, like...
especially when it comes to budgets, you also have to understand, if you're going to get bigger actors for your projects... A lot of that budget is going to, you got to pay your salaries for your actors, your crew, all the other stuff that goes into making stuff. So, eventually, you're going to hit the wall at some point.
And you got deadlines, too. So yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
And when you make films so frequently and you've got so many different deadlines for different things, time management and project management is so crucial, and then eventually you're going to burn out if you push yourself too hard.
Yeah. No, I think Cop Out really hurt Kevin when he was eventually
Cop Out, more like Burnout, but
and the next three movies you guys are going to talk about are movies I actually haven't seen, so I'm considering me not gone, but I'm just going to be a bit of a fly on the wall for the next little bit because
So you're going to cop out.
No, I am going to cop out.
You're going to tap out.
I have seen the trailers to both of the next three movies, and none of them look interesting to me.
Well,
Don't worry, I've not seen any of them.
So you guys take over for the next
but I
little
haven't
bit.
seen any of them.
So I'm the only one here who's seen all of his films. Okay. I'm gonna have to burn through this. Alright, so...
A Lyle Groniger verse.
The Lyle Groniger show here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so next up we have Red State.
What year did this come out?
2011,
Okay.
so the year right after Cop Out. I gotta be honest, so unlike almost everything else Kevin Smith made up until this point, he decided he would fancy himself as a horror director. Now, well, Red State's more of a thriller, but this is where Kevin Smith didn't. He wanted to break out of his wheelhouse. He didn't want to be pigeonholed as just like a stoner comedy kind of guy. So he wanted to expand. So Red State, the best way I can describe it is, you guys ever seen the movie Elephant with by Gus Van Sant? Second time we brought it up this podcast. Okay, Elephant is a movie ostensibly about the Columbine shooting, but without using any of the names, any of the actual events. They do a little bit of tracing where it's kind of like how it happened, but it's not really how it happened. It's not accurate, but it's like a reinterpretation of history. I think Red State is very, very similar to the Waco, Texas incident with the Branch Davidians and David Koresh and all that.
Oh, yeah, I saw a National Geographic special in the 90s and it went into that.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
So Red State is all about these boys who get kidnapped by a cult, and the leader is played by Michael Parks. And unfortunately, Cody and I didn't mention Michael Parks and Tarantino, but Michael Parks is a very good character actor. He's so good in the Tarantino films, like Kill Bill, Killing Volume 2, or like stuff like that. But like in this, he really shines. He's a very strong performer. As is, and you're gonna be shocked, John Goodman is in the movie.
That I can see.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Red State overall isn't great, but it's decent. I would say you guys could check it out. It is not bad. It's all right. But it's not a strong movie. I do find some wishy-washiness. It's another case of Kevin Smith trying to like do more despite his limited grasp on certain aspects, like how to shoot shootout scenes and action scenes, and even his horror stuff is a little flimsy, but it's fine. The best part of the movie for me is when John Goodman is he's kind of on like this like trial debriefing, like he's in a courtroom with some top men, and he's kind of breaking down the situation. And at the end of the day, they're just like, we don't give a fuck about these people. You're off the hook. And then John Goodman has this wonderful monologue about how he faced another cult in like the 70s or something, and how like a couple kids brought them down. Just by like playing music too loudly, and it pissed them off. It's just a wonderful. You can tell Kevin Smith wrote that scene. But ultimately, the thing I like about Red State is that, as a cult movie, I mean, not like a cult fan film kind of movie, but a movie about a cult. I mean, it's not Midsummer or anything, but like, it does a good job of displaying the double-edged sword of like the cult being militant, and the FBI getting too involved, and the two just escalating the situation until it comes to a head and everyone's dead. So I do like that, because that does happen a lot with some cults, unfortunately, where things just explode.
It sounds kind of like Hot Fuzz.
It's nothing like Hot Fuzz.
I know.
Hot Fuzz is like the casualty rate in Red State like totally tanks Hot Fuzz. But it's a fine movie. I don't mind it. I would recommend it to you guys. Next up, in 2014, we have Tusk.
Okay.
Goo goo.
There was one cinema snob I went to film school with, and he thought Tusk was the best movie he'd ever seen. I'm like, are you fucking serious? I haven't seen it. Nothing Lyle has told me about it makes me want to see it.
Well, I'll say this. This movie does have its defenders. It's interesting how it started out. We should talk about Smodcast before we get into Tusk. Kevin Smith started a podcast in 2007 with his wingman Scott Mosier, and he's been doing it like every Sunday. He has like over 400 episodes now, and Smodcast has kind of been his bread and butter as of recently. Like, he does a lot of it, and you can tell the guy likes to talk. He shows up in so many documentaries. Maybe you guys can answer. Is Hollywood Babylon, not Babylon, Hollywood Babble On? It's a pun. Is that a podcast too? Or? Yeah, it's a podcast. I don't think Kevin Smith runs it, but I'm sure he shows up quite a lot. Yeah. So Smodcast, when Tusk was like not even in its fruition, Kevin Smith heard of this story about this wild tale about this reporter who came in and talked to this guy who wanted to create like a human walrus or something. I don't know the full story. I don't really listen to this Smodcast, but this whole movie started because of a podcast, and you even hear the podcast itself at the end credits. And I think he heard two stories, and he asked his fans on Twitter or something like that, which story would you like to see become a movie, and I'll get it made. Because Kevin Smith wasn't too busy at this time. Like, there was a 3-year gap between Red State and Tusk, and eventually Tusk was the one that got chosen. And to be honest, this film is Kevin Smith trying his darndest to do something different, and I kind of respect that. I don't like this movie personally, and I'm very, very surprised it's an A24 film. A very early.
They usually make quality stuff.
Well, this is like the early days. This is like when Slice was around. Like, it wasn't. They hadn't reached like Hereditary levels, or Moonlight levels. So, unfortunately, Tusk is about Justin Long. He's a podcaster, just like that good old Kevin Smith. And he goes to Canada to do an interview after one of his previous podcasts fell through. So he has to do an interview with this guy who claims to have this really interesting story about his life. That's the hook. And but the guy kidnaps Justin Long, and his girlfriend and his friend, played by Haley Joel Osment. It's been a while since I've seen him.
He doesn't look so good today.
Yeah, I mean, everyone gets old, I guess.
Yeah.
At least he's working, you know?
Yeah.
So he gets kidnapped by Michael Parks, and again, just like Red State, Michael Parks is very good in this. Justin Long, I don't really care for his character too much, but what Michael Parks wants to do is he wants to turn Justin Long into a walrus. And I gotta say, the casting for Justin Long's interesting, because I always thought that guy had, like, kind of walrus-like features on a slimmer body. And, oh god. Johnny Depp's in the movie, and he plays a Quebecois detective named Guy Lapointe.
He is no bone cop, bad cop.
He is no...
Bone cop, bad cop.
He's no Peter Sellers, and I can tell that's the inspiration because the character feels very much like Jacques Cousteau. But this is the problem with Tusk. It's pretty good at making a horror atmosphere. The way it's shot, it looks pretty good for the most part. But Kevin Smith can't fucking help himself. He has to have some funny moments, and the funny moments clash so terribly with the horror elements. As soon as Johnny Depp's character shows up, the movie fucking stops. His character is so over the top. He doesn't fit with the tone at all. And Johnny Depp, this was kind of around the time where he wasn't getting as much work. I'm actually surprised Kevin Smith could even afford him. I guess it was a favor. But, oh, fuck. He's not good in this. His accent's terrible. The scenes where he has to, like, interview, like, the two people looking for Justin Long goes on for a decade. The scene with him talking to Michael Parks' character, like, in a flashback, goes on forever. Basically, the movie grinds to a halt. And, the ending, I will say this. The special effects on Justin Long look great. They do a crash zoom to reveal his transformation, and yeah, it's kind of startling, I will say. So good on you, Kevin. You got a reaction from me, like an allergy. But there is one in the final confrontation, for no reason at all. Kevin Smith puts on like this annoying song, like I think it's like hip hop or something. I don't even remember. It was just like either funk or hip hop. It was just like this really abrasive song that totally clashed with the final fight, where like Justin Long as a walrus is fighting Michael Parks, and it just looks goofy. It looks like two guys in fat suits bumping into each other. And the ending kind of ends on like a morose note. And yeah, that's the thing about Tusk. It just left me feeling weird. I didn't feel strongly about it. I've only watched it once.
You know what would have been appropriate? If the final fight of the film was soundtracked by the song from the Fleetwood Mac album, Tusk.
I think of that song whenever I hear the title of this movie.
Yes, the Tusk of that movie.
The song Tusk doesn't really have to do with the movie, like if you listen to the song.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a classic, like, Love Gone Wrong type of song. It's also a very aggressive song too. I don't like listening to it very much, but you know.
So Tusk started. We talked about movie trilogies earlier, a few weeks ago, and Tusk was supposed to represent the beginning of the Great North Trilogy, where he makes a horror film set in Canada. Technically, I guess you could say Kevin Smith made a trilogy with like the first three of his films, which is considered the Jersey Trilogy. Although I just chalk that up to like the View universe as a whole. But moving on, we gotta kind of keep going. Next up is Yoga Hosers in 2016.
And this is the one where, I haven't seen it, but this is the one where Kevin Smith and Johnny Depp flex their nepotism muscles and cast their daughters as main characters.
Yeah, so Lily...
And it goes about as well as you'd expect that would go.
Yeah, it's about the Colleens, played by Harley Quinn Smith, and I think her name's Lily Rose Depp. I could be wrong.
Lily Rose, yes.
Okay, I was right, yeah. Bonus points. Yeah, they're clerks in a Canadian store called A2Z. They do yoga with Justin Long, who's based on a guy. This is how the story originated. On Smodcast, once again, they were talking about this
Here's
guy
a note.
in
If
Montreal.
you have to come up with your film ideas based on podcast stories, maybe flesh them out a bit more and take more time to make them.
Thank you, Josh. I was just about to say that. They heard this story about in Montreal, some yoga instructor robbed a museum or an art gallery and took some paintings and then got arrested. And Scott Mosier made a joke where it's like, what do you think the Mounties said as they were taken away? It's like, stand down, you yoga hoser.
Oh.
And
There's
that became a meme.
between, hey, this would make a great film idea, and then actually, in some way, I envy Kevin Smith for being able to be like, you know what? Why don't I actually make this? Because like, there's a reason you don't though. Because sometimes you don't know if an idea's gonna suck until you make it.
Well, he even said at Sundance when he released this film, he doesn't give a shit about audiences anymore. This film feels incredibly self-indulgent to me.
The sentiment is mutual.
Because he, he had an inside joke with his podcast. And while I will say his podcast is successful, I didn't get the joke, and I'm a Kevin Smith fan. And, it's like, why would you have a little idea like this and make it into a fully fledged feature? And it shows, because not a lot happens in Yoga Hosers. The plot is these two girls are confronted with this Canadian Nazi, and the Canadian Nazi summons these demonic sausages called what is it called? The bratwursts, I guess. They're Nazi sausages. The Bratzies, thank you.
That name sounds like something South Park would have already done in the Stick of Truth.
Yeah, because the way these things kill you is they crawl into your ass and go all the way through your body and out your mouth. And all these sausages are played by Kevin Smith in terrible green screen and prosthetic effects, and him doing a terrible German accent.
Great. So it's like he's trying to make his own Birdemic or Sharknado movie.
Oh god,
it shows.
The special effects in this movie are almost on the level of Birdemic, I swear to god. I'm gonna be transparent here. This is the worst Kevin Smith movie I've ever seen.
Worse than Cop Out.
Worse than Cop Out, because at least Cop Out had some value to it, and I could tell
a charm.
No, not charm, but I could tell it was a movie. This feels like a video. It feels like something that should be like maybe 2 minutes long, but it's not.
Yeah, I'm surprised the Asylum was not involved in this movie.
Yeah, no.
Because it's got a lot of their handiwork.
It's lazily shot. It's terribly written. It's Kevin Smith.
And what do you have against us Canadians, huh?
Yeah, no, the Canadian stereotype jokes are so dumb. Like it's just
this is like in the 2010s already. Like we've been over this.
Well, yeah, it's the mid 2010s, and like he's still doing like, oh, Canadians love maple syrup. They love hockey. Here, hey, you like Johnny Depp? He's back.
Oh god.
Oh god. Yeah, I'm done.
Well,
don't watch Yoga Hosers. It's fucking terrible.
You'd think that would be the end of this, but no, actually. Okay, so. Sorry.
Cereal.
Yeah. So basically, the U.S. universe made a triumphant return, and I do mean a triumphant return.
As a brief aside, there was some film in 2016 called Holidays where Kevin Smith actually directed a segment of it.
Yeah, I saw that. He made a segment about Halloween, and I watched it, and his daughter stars in it yet again. And it has about the same production value as Yoga Hosers.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
Okay.
That explains everything. Moving on.
Oh, yeah,
wait,
just move on.
Before we get into the triumphant return of the U.S. universe, I feel like we should talk about... We mentioned Jason Mewes about half an hour ago. It's very sad that Jason Mewes kind of fell off the wagon and fell into a pattern of addiction, but he got clean and he got his life back together, and him and Kevin Smith are good again. Now... He's
been sober since July 1st of 2010 because there was a brief relapse in Atlanta. The point is, he has his redemption arc.
That's amazing. So the movie, he made a feature film, believe it or not, called
Madness in the Method.
Madness in the Method. The plot is Jason Mewes plays himself in a film noir, I guess, kind of scenario where he wants to break away from the stoner typecast.
He wants to be taken seriously.
He wants to be taken seriously as an actor, And it's actually an idea that I'm kind of writing a script idea for now, and
it also has a Stan Lee cameo.
It does.
It does, yes.
Quite a few actors in this movie.
Yeah,
Actually.
Some really good, some that don't age as well.
It's kind of like This Is the End, where a bunch of Kevin Smith actors play themselves, and it's the most out of world scenario you can possibly think of.
Yeah, in all accounts, I actually think it's kind of solid.
It is. No, it's pretty good.
It's niche. If you're not a Kevin Smith film, if you're not a Kevin Smith fan, I don't think you're gonna get as much out of it, much like the next one we're gonna talk about. But yeah, it's pretty good too. And speaking of,
is it on any streaming things anywhere?
It's on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it.
I think I might have to check that out then, because this sounds promising.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. Yeah. And speaking of which, Jeff Anderson also made a film somewhere in the very early 2000s called Now You Know, which is like a romantic comedy.
And knowing is half the battle. AJ Styles.
I haven't seen it because it's not very readily available. It was kind of a small movie, but it was where the guy who played Elias from Clerks 2 is in it, and that's what got him the role in Clerks 2. It looks like a solid movie. It looks like he did a pretty solid job for a debut.
Jones in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rashida Jones. He was also in Cop Out.
He was also in Cop Out, too.
Yeah, what the hell? Yeah, but, so those are just some, like, bonus things. I'd also heavily recommend you watch the Clerks, the animated series. That is a that is a damn fine show, by the creators of Kim Possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, yes, I've seen some of that. I would also, there's been a whole bunch of, like, things we haven't talked about in terms of, like, deleted scenes and abandoned ideas for things, so if any of these movies interest you in terms of the Viewers universe and you get the DVDs or Blu-rays, at least check out some of those special features.
Oh, yeah. And there's also the
deleted scene from Clerks.
The deleted scene from Clerks, that's true.
And
the original ending.
Well, yeah, the original ending where, like, Dante got killed. But, yeah, there's also, like, a bonus scene. The funeral scene would have been included, but it was too expensive. So, Alyssa Jones from Chasing Amy shows up and talks to Dante for a while Randall fucks around in the funeral home.
No necrophilia intended.
And I would also recommend the recently released Shooting Clerks.
Yeah, the biopic. I want to see that so bad, but it's not distributed yet, so that's too bad.
When it does get distributed and it's on streaming, check that out.
So I'd also recommend Evening with Kevin Smith. It's like 3 hours long, but if you like to hear Kevin Smith talk, it's pretty great.
Now, before we get into... so we're going to wrap this up. The thing that kind of closed out the VS universe was the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, distributed on it was exclusive to Amazon Prime, was it not?
It's on. Yeah, it was debuted on Amazon Prime because it came out in 2019.
Brought to you by Saban Films.
I remember
the same people that used to make Power Rangers until Saban brand shut down a few years ago after Hasbro bought them out.
The plot of this movie, it's a sequel to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, like 20, almost 20 years later.
Or in Smith's own words, quote, literally the same fucking movie all over again.
Basically.
I actually
like... with more relevant cameos.
I like it. It's a beat-for-beat remake of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which is the joke. Like, he's taking a shot at reboot culture and remakes and cinematic universes and all that. I actually like it a tad bit better than I do Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So if Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is the Infinity War of the VS universe, then reboot is the end game.
That's a good comparison.
I wasn't into this at first when I first heard of it because I'm like, it's 2 decades later. I'm not really sure it needs to have the exact same plot beat for beat, but I will give it a shot and I will check this out sometime because if it sounds like it's got the same vibe as Strike Back, maybe just updated a bit.
It's very it is funny and it's updated very much for the times. Given how the movie is it's joking about how it's going out of its way to score diversity points. How it's also his daughter, Kevin Smith's daughter, Harley Quinn, is there again. But the plot of the movie is it's the same shit with. Jay and Silent Bob get mad that some asshole filmmaker is rebooting Bluntman and Chronic, so they go to Hollywood to stop it again. But the road trip is a little different this time because the girl that Jay fucked around with in the first movie,
Justice,
actually they had a love child together that Jay didn't know about, And it turns out that his long-lost lover is gay for Rosario Dawson. Or bi for Rosario Dawson.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Some girls get all the luck.
Well, how awesome is that? So, anyways, another thing I gotta mention is that one of my favorite cameo in this movie is Ben Affleck. And people like to hate on Ben Affleck, but he, oddly enough, has the best cameo in this whole movie. One of the most heartfelt cameos was where they break into a panel at a comic convention, where the cast of Clerks is there, and they play a rendition of the Love Among Freaks song, and the whole cast is in black and white. And I'm like, oh, nice. I see what you did there.
With the Ben Affleck cameo, we have a really nice kind of like epilogue to Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
I did not expect.
I kind of respect how it kind of mixes in different Viewer's Universe things into this as well. It's not just a beat-to-beat remake.
The one I actually have a bit of a fan theory as to one particular cameo. They stop at a Moobies on the way to Hollywood, and the manager of the Moobies is Jennifer Schwalbach-Smith, and I like to say, so, after Emma got her heart curb stomped by Dante in Clerks 2, she went into a depressed stupor where she moved away from New Jersey, as far away from New Jersey as possible. She relocated to Illinois, and the only way she could rekindle, stop herself from dying of depression was to work at the place that Dante worked at, just so she could feel closer to the man she used to know.
Yeah,
that's my.
And Justin Long is in this, playing the same character from Zack and Miri. It's all connected.
It's funny, when we saw this movie, I hadn't seen Zack and Miri yet, so I had to remind him that.
Wait, he's the same porn producer?
I don't know. He plays a character very similar.
He's a sleazy executive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't say if it's the exact same character, but the performance is very similar. I don't really have too much to say. I think Reboot, it was better than I expected. If you're not a Kevin Smith fan, you're probably going to hate it. It does have some negative reception, but, I think it's a nice, it's one of the best films I've seen from Kevin Smith in a long-ass time.
It really is.
So I'll take it,
Yeah.
As a Kevin Smith fan, I'll take it. And there's another movie he has in the pipeline. It's called Kilroy Was Here.
So you know he's going to use Mr. Roboto in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kilroy. It's actually based on an old tradition that in World War II where soldiers would spray paint an image called Kilroy Was Here, which is this long-nosed picture of a guy.
That's what it is.
Yeah. It's and that was all over in the World War II. They would do that all over the bunkers and spray paint it just to say this was our mark. This is our contribution to the war. And Kevin Smith saw it, and he's gonna make a horror movie out of it, I guess, or something. They're gonna make him into Kilroy into a monster, I guess, a long-nosed monster.
Okay.
So I guess we can look forward to that.
We talked about
like one of the Mr. Men, Mr. Kilroy.
It is interesting to note very quickly. It is one of the first films to be a non-fungible token.
Yeah.
Oh, it's that thing.
Yeah, I'm not.
Well, that won't age it very well past the next year or two.
I have no idea what the hell an NFT is, but it's
in layman's terms, it's basically cryptocurrency that has a value, but it's not a completely defined value, like how something costs a certain number of dollars and cents. But I also don't pretend to nor care to understand about cryptocurrency, so whatever revenue stream you can find, I guess.
That's a very interesting. But that's kind of symbolic of Kevin Smith's entire career. Yeah. It's kind of hard to It's kind of hard to state the value of his films, other than the fact that it's kind of a personal thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't care if it makes money. He doesn't care if it does. He just cares that it pleases the people who like his work the most. I
got two things. Number one, we get Chris Jericho in this movie, so I'm like, cool. I wonder if Kilroy's going to make the list. That's a wrestling thing. Secondly, now that whole NFT thing just made me think, watch, Clerks 3 is going to be one also, and it'll be only released as that. There will be no theatrical release, no streaming, no nothing, just you either pay this amount that with cryptocurrency and never actually know how much you need to have, and that's the only way you can truly watch Clerks 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, wasn't there are we talking about, canned or sidelined Kevin Smith projects? Because Mallrats 2 was on there. I don't think Mallrats needs a sequel. What would it be about?
I don't know. They go to the mall again.
It would be them standing outside the mall as it's being demolished. That's the entire movie.
Yeah.
Because malls are not really relevant now like they were in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
That's
Speaking of the
true.
mid-90s, Kevin Smith was attached to that Superman Lives thing with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, God.
He had to write that movie, and the producer had, like, the weirdest fucking, like, stipulations. Like, it has to have a giant spider, Superman can't wear his costume, and he can't
And all
fly.
of a sudden, it's a giant fucking spider.
Yeah, which was later used in, The Wild Wild West.
Another
producer.
thing that's worth mentioning is,
Yes, that giant spider.
in true nerd spirit, he has directed a bunch of episodes for superhero TV shows like The Flash and I believe Supergirl too.
Yeah, it's good for him. I'm
On a
glad.
Superman Lives side note, if anyone wants to check out The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, they can get some more info on that entire mess.
Just to kind of play us out today, I'd like to stress that we almost lost this wonderful man in 2018. On the morning of February 25th, 2018, I woke up to the news that Kevin Smith had a heart attack and maybe almost died. Actually, no.
It was right after a show.
A severe heart attack, yes.
Yeah, no. He had, it was one of those situations where he had really bad chest pains and then he took himself to the hospital. The doctor told him, had he just taken his chances,
Come any later, he would be gone.
Yeah, because they got to him just in time to, stop to help him, and he's alive and well right now. He's lost a shit ton of weight.
He's gone vegan too.
Yeah, no, because the guy he was a bit of a fat ass for most.
No, he had a weird diet. He would fluctuate from hundreds of pounds in between his career. He had the weirdest diet. It was called a yo-yo diet or something.
Yeah, but anyway, so
I'm glad he's still with us.
So I'd like to end this show by reading the letter that I wrote the day I found out that we almost lost him. Okay. Hi, Kevin. First off, I'm glad you're okay, and I wish you a speedy recovery. Secondly, your post was a reminder to us all that life is short, so I thought I'd share this with you. Way back in 2009, when I was 17, I saw two films that inspired me to get into filmmaking. James Cameron's Avatar and your first film, Clerks. While Avatar used revolutionary technology in order to tell its epic story and create a world we wish existed, Clerks told a story with relatable characters in a setting we have all gone to many times in our lives. And you pulled it all off with minimal resources on a small budget that you came up with yourself. Clerks taught me that a meaningful and hilarious film can be made pretty much anywhere at any time, and that if I wanted to make movies, I could just go for it. It's now 2018 and I have written and directed 3 short films of my own, with a documentary series in the works, and plans to develop a feature film within the next 5 years. I hope to shake your hand one day and thank you for being the inspiration for making this all happen. Get well soon, Evan. Well, I wrote this at the time that he was in the hospital, so he's much better now.
That was very nice, Evan.
Yeah, well, thank you.
To quote Stan Lee, enough said.
Exactly. Perfect note to end on. Thank you very much for listening to our 37th episode. And you're closed. I may never get what I want.